What's up, poker people? My name's Wes, and this is my poker vlog. Today I'm at Texas Card House in Austin, and I'm going to be playing 5-5 live stream game. Wish me luck. This is for entertainment only. I am not a professional poker player. I'm not trying to be a poker coach. I'm trying to share the fun of the games I'm playing. Enjoy the action. I've got something different for you guys today. I recently traveled to Austin to play at the Texas Card House location there to play on a live stream table with RFID whole cards. This is the first time I've ever played on a stream like this. There was even professional commentary by Bart Hansen. If you want to watch this entire stream, you can check out the TCH Live YouTube account to see the stream. This will be my normal vlog. I'm just going to use their footage, but at the end of every hand, we're going to get a chance to see what our opponents had if they didn't go to showdown. In this hand, we had the 10, 20, 40, 80, 160 straddle going, and it folds all the way around to Will. He's in the $40 straddle, and it looks like he's going to raise it up. Will makes it $390 to go. Albert gets out of the way, and I'm going to look down at 6-5 suited. I really like a hand like this in this spot. I can make a straight, a flush, two pair of trips, and the good thing about a hand like this is I'm going to know where I'm at. If I had ace-10 offsuit in this spot, I would hit an ace, I would have to call, and I would never know where I'm at in the hand. But with a hand like 6-5 suited, I'm never going to get to the river with one pair and have to decide whether I want to call $1,000 or not. I'm either going to make two pair. I flop two pair. Like I was saying, I'm either going to make two pair, trips, a straight or a flush, or I'm just not going to continue with this hand. Will bets $400, and now I have a decision to make. If I decide to just call, any ace, king, or queen could put me in a spot where I don't know if I still have the best hand. Right now, there's only one hand I have to worry about, and that's jacks. I like putting my money in when I know I have the best hand and slowing down when I'm not sure. So I'm going to go ahead and make a raise here. I'll make it $1,000 to go. One of the other things that went into my decision at this point was, can I represent having some sort of draw? If this is a Jack 5-6 rainbow board, it's much harder for Will to call me with something like pocket tens or ace jack. If there's no draws out there, he'll just think I have a set. But with this suited coordinated board, he can actually put me on a draw and continue even with a one pair hand. If he has a big hand, aces or kings, he's probably not going to fold, so let's just get some more money in there. Let's see what he does. Will decides to fold, and you can see on the bottom left he had ace-5. Let's meet the players. This is Philip. He plays in my game in Houston. This is Waldo, who also plays in my game in Houston and goes by Todd and Chris for some reason. And this is Will, who plays in my game in Houston, but is actually from Dallas, best known for this hand.
Dude, are you going to sit there in Hollywood for 5 minutes? Are you serious? Like, is that even a thing? That's so insane, dude. He just wastes everyone's time in Hollywood for 5 minutes.
And this is Albert, also from Houston and plays in my game and is known from this hand. This is a weird hand.
It is. I mean, just check it down. I mean, it's so stupid.
Look.
Ridiculous.
Wow, what a river card.
The
And this is me. This is Jay. He's actually a local from Austin who played in the game. And this is Major. This is the GM of the Houston, Texas Card House. This is Glenn from Houston who plays in my game and is known for having aces in this hand. We see pocket aces and pocket kings. And this is Richard. Richard is currently in Dallas but is from Houston and plays in my game and is known for this. Oh, what was that? As you can see, I brought a whole crew from Houston. Let's see what we bought in for. I bought in for $5,600. I was playing the 1-3 game prior to this, and I had $600 in front of me when we started the game, so I added on $5K, so I bought in for $5,600. In this hand, we got Jay under the gun with Queen 10 offsuit, and I have no idea what this guy's doing. This is a hand that probably shouldn't be played almost ever, and definitely not under the gun or an early position. If it folded to you on the button, cutoff, or hijack and you raise this, I wouldn't think it was crazy, but doing this under the gun, I just don't know what this guy's going to do. Philip wakes up with a real hand, pocket queens in the small blind, and he makes it 300 to go. The other blinds in the straddles start folding, and it's over to Albert. Albert looks down at pocket jacks. He's already seen a raise and a re-raise, and now he has to decide what to do with everybody's least favorite hand. Well, he's definitely not folding, and it looks like he might be raising. Albert makes it $950. It's over to Jay, who has to rethink his life decisions and folds. Now we're over to Philip. Philip bought in for $2K, and he's staring at a bet of basically half his stack. So he doesn't really need a Hollywood that much. Albert's never going to fold, so it's just time to go ahead and put the chips in the middle and see 5 cards. What's this face that Philip's making? Why is he... Oh, wait a minute. Why is he making this face? Is he thinking about... He's not thinking about folding, is he? That's not the face of a guy who's going to get it all in. No, Philip. No, Philip. Your friends are watching. No, Philip. Your family's watching. No! And Albert takes it down with jacks. I've already folded this hand. It's folding all the way around to major on the button, and he limps in with 10-9 suited. You're going to find that this is something I talk about a lot in this episode. If you find yourself ever in a spot where you say, I think I want to just limp this hand, that hand needs to be folded. This means either the hand's not good enough, you're not playing deep enough, or the competition is too stiff for you to be playing against. In reality, 10-9 suited is way good enough for a raise. Major's not super deep, but he's definitely deep enough to make it $60, and look, he would have taken this down pre-flop. But now he's playing 10 high against 3 other players. And he flops the joint. So he flops the bottom end of a straight, which is probably going to be the best hand most of the time. I definitely think he needs to bet for value and a little bit of protection because there are 2 spades on board. It's checked over to major, and he's going to bet. With the pot at $85, major decides to bet $75. I like this bet size because there are a lot of draws out there. You do want to charge people. And he gets a call from Glenn with a flush draw and a pair, and from Todd with just a naked 10, which I don't really like that. Maybe he's just trying to do the 10 deuce on him. Wow, so the turn is the 8 of hearts, which now gives major a flush draw as well as a straight flush draw. The pot's 310. Major should bet about 200. What is he doing? He bet $400 into a pot that had 310 in it. After he turned way more equity. He's an 80% favorite, and he's basically betting these guys out of the hand. Glenn has to fold his pair and flush draw, and of course Todd can't continue with just a 10. So he has to fold. I really think this is a mistake. It's so rare that you have this much equity in a hand that you can't just say, you know what, there's enough out there, I'm going to take it down. And there really wasn't that much out there. This is a $300 pot. I really think Major should have slowed down just a little bit, bet about 200 and shoved the river. Maybe he would have gotten doubled up. In this hand, Will has pocket 8s and there's just a $10 straddle. He raises it up to $50. Albert's going to 3-bet him, and Will's going to immediately start complaining, half jokingly, that Albert always has a hand to 3-bet him. Albert has ace-jack suited, a good enough hand to 3-bet, and he makes it 150 to go. I get out of the way with ace-3 offsuit, and it's over to Jay. Jay looks down at pocket 4s, and I'm not sure what he's thinking about. He could call, but he's not that deep. Looks like he's getting raising chips out. The only thing that makes sense in this spot is he heard Will saying, man, how is it that Albert always has a hand to 3-bet me? And he's thinking, man, that Albert's full of it. He doesn't have a hand every time. Maybe I can just take this one away. I just don't think this is the hand you want to do this with. I'd rather have a hand that I can make a straight, 2-pair, and not a hand where 70% of the time the flop is going to be 3 overs. Albert makes the call and we're going to a flop. The flop is queen 9-5. See? 3 overs. Now what are you going to do, Jay? Well, the good thing is Albert missed. Jay's actually going to shove his last $670, and there's nothing really Albert can do. This is a very fortunate spot for Jay. He was just clicking buttons, and this time he was right. He got pocket eights to fold, and somehow he got ace-jack to miss. Nice hand, Jay. Major limps ace-jack under the gun, and when it folds around to me in the big blind, I make it 100 to go with pocket fives. Jay's a straddler. He decides to call 100, and Major gets out of the way. Now we're heads up. This is one of the reasons why I raised pocket fives. Now I just needed to not come 3 overs. Oh, I see a 5. The flop is 9-5-4. So I flop a set. Although it's a coordinated board with a few straight draws, it's rainbow, which I love. I see bet $125 and he snap calls. The turn is the king, and now I have a decision to make. This is where thinking about sizing is really important. What's the most likely hand that Jay has? 1 pair. If he flopped a pair, does he like seeing this king on the turn? No way. But we really need to target a hand like 8-9 or 5-6. So I bet $200 and Jay calls. I'm not really worried about any river cards, but there are plenty that might kill my action, such as a 6, 7, or 8, or a diamond. The river's a 6. This card doesn't make very many straights. 2-3 would have been the only open-ender, and all the other straights would have been gut shots. My bet sizing really needs to target 1 pair, and I bet $375. Jay snap calls, and it looks like we have the best hand. And now is where we get to see what Jay had. Oh, he turned a king. I'll be going back to Austin in February to do this live stream again, and I'm going to commentate. So on Friday the 21st, I'll be doing commentary, and on the 22nd, I'll be playing on the live stream. Follow me on Twitter for more details. In this hand, Albert's going to make it $55 to get started. I have no respect for Albert's late position raises, and I also have pocket nines, so I'm going to 3-bet to $175. I'd rather get this hand heads up and not have to play against 3 other players. And as you can see, my 3-bet actually gets Major to fold ace-jack suited. Now he is in a weird spot, but I think it's an interesting situation. We have a button raise and a small blind 3-bet. We're not talking about an under the gun raise and a button 3-bet. Albert's going to have a pretty wide range on the button. Maybe it includes most aces, any 2 Broadway cards, and all his pairs. But guess what? I'm going to have a similar range when I 3-bet him. Major could have shoved his $1,000 stack, and he probably would have picked this pot up about 80% of the time, because yes, Albert and I are both full of it about that often in this situation. It's definitely not a bad fold, and it's not even a nitty fold. I just think it's possible Major could have found a different play to make here that would have been pretty interesting. Albert and I play together so often that I know he's never going to 4-bet me and he's never going to fold. But still, he's going to take his 15 seconds before he calls, and we're going to go to the flop. So now we've got a $365 pot going to the flop. That's a horrible flop. My pre-flop 3-bet basically said, Albert, I've got big cards, and a big flop came out. So I have to continue telling that story with a C-bet of $200, and Albert calls. And this is where I need to start to panic. I have pocket nines on an ace queen 10 flop. What do I do now? The turn card is the 3 of spades, which just gives me a chance to barrel one more time because now I have a flush draw. There's no way I have the best hand. I'm really trying to get Albert to fold a weak ace or a queen, and he does put it in the muck. Let's see what he had. King, queen. We got him to fold a queen. That's what's great about this live stream, is now we actually get to see what we're getting people to fold and what they're calling us down with. This hand, Albert raised to $55, and I'm going to 3-bet with ace queen. Although this looks like a similar spot, we were both in early to middle position, so our hand ranges are actually stronger. Glenn cold calls this 3-bet from the button, and my attempt to get this heads up doesn't work. And as I said before, Albert knows he's never folding in this spot. He's always going to call, and he does. The flop is 9-8 deuce rainbow. It's not a good flop in the sense that I didn't hit anything, but it's also a flop that my opponents shouldn't have hit. So I'm going to go with the math on this one, and I'm going to c-bet and hope they just missed. So I bet $225 and Glenn calls. Glenn's a pretty tight, straightforward player, so at this point, I'm basically hoping to hit a queen or an ace, or I'm done with the hand, and this 6 of diamonds is not what I'm looking for. I'm going to check it over to Glenn. If he bets, I'm just going to fold. He bets $300 and I get out of the way. But we get to see what he had. Jack 10 of diamonds, so he flops an open-ender and turns a flush draw. Nice bet. Ooh, Albert wakes up with pocket queens in early position. There's a $20 straddle, and Albert makes it $100 to go. I get out of the way. Jay's thinking about it. He makes the call. Major looks down at ace-king offsuit. With his stack size, this is a great spot. You just oh, he just called. Okay, it's not horrible to call. He's on the button. He might be closing the action. He knows he's going to be last to act. He gets to see a flop and make some decisions. I still prefer a 3-bet. It's the old squeeze play. Albert has to have a really good hand to continue. We know that Jay doesn't have a great hand because he didn't 3-bet, so why not put a bet in there, take it down pre-flop. Although that wouldn't have worked this time. And just like that, Major outflops Albert. The flop is king 8-8 with 2 spades. Albert's going to c-bet. He makes it 150. So Major's just going to call. He's going to see if Albert is going to bet more than one street. What did he just raise? He made it $450. He's never going to get a worse hand to call. Pocket queens are just going to go straight into the muck. Albert can't barrel off if a spade comes on the turn. This hand is just over. Just like that. Ace king, what a waste. In this hand, I have the triple straddle of $40 out there. Looks like Glenn wants to play this hand and he's analyzing the straddles to decide on the optimal amount to make it, which he decides is $85? So Glenn basically min raises, which is going to cause a lot of players to get in this hand. Todd calls with pocket 7s. Albert's not going to fold 7-6. And I'm in the straddle. It's only $45 more to call with queen 5 suited. I'm going to call. Let's see a flop. I flop a queen on a queen 10-4 board. Queen 10 of diamonds, 4 spades. As is the standard procedure, we all check to Glenn, and he c-bets. Todd has to fold his 7s. Albert's folding 7-6, and I'm never folding top pair. I call 200. Let's see a turn. Oh, I turn 2 pair. The turn's the 5 of hearts. I check to Glenn, and he's going to bet again. Glenn bets $350. Now I'm in a different spot than I was previously when I had 6-5 for 2 pair, because now I have top and bottom. It's a lot harder for me to get counterfeit, and I'm actually not worried about an ace or a king coming on the river. I'm just going to call, and if he has a hand like pocket aces, kings, or ace queen, he's going to make another bet on the river, and I can decide if I want to check raise or call. Oh, I get counterfeit! How does this always happen? I check, and Glenn turns up ace king of diamonds. Oh, royal flush draw on the flop just bricks out. I straddle 10, and Jay straddle 20, and everybody folds to me. I'm going to play this hand like we're just in the blinds, and I raise it up with king 10 offsuit. Jay calls $85. We're going to a flop. I flop a king, but there's an ace out there. I'm just gonna check. I'm not really worried about protecting my hand. Jay bets 100 and I call. The turn queen of spades gives me the nut flush draw and a gut shot. I check and he snap checks. Oh, the river's the nine of spades. I have the absolute nuts. Here's the deal. If he doesn't have a flush, he's not calling almost anything. So I go ahead and bomb it, and he does fold. He did have an ace. There's a $10 straddle, and it folds around a Todd in the cutoff. He's got pocket nines, and he raises it up to $40. Will's on the button with pocket sevens. He calls. Is Albert gonna squeeze? No, he's just gonna call. And I decide to get up and eat some pizza. Ah, Jay's got pocket kings. What a great spot. This actually looks a lot like the spot he had earlier where he raised with pocket fours, out of position, but this time he's got pocket kings. The raise is to $260, and now Todd's got a decision. He's got to decide what the heck to do with that $10 I just gave him for the pizza in the middle of a hand. This 3-bet represents about a quarter of Todd's stack. It's really one of those spots where he'd have to shove or fold, and he does decide to fold. Now Will's a bit deeper. Actually, Will's a lot deeper. Jay's got 1.5K, Will covers. Will's been watching the stream between hands on his phone, and he knows that Jay 4-bet with pocket fours earlier. He just doesn't trust him, so he's going to call him with pocket sevens. We can't see Albert's cards just yet, but he's in the tank and he's going to make the call. They ask Albert to rescan his cards, and now we know he has king-queen. The flop is 6-3 deuce with 2 spades. This is the kind of flop that's going to allow Jay to c-bet and get a call from Will. If no big cards come on the turn, he might even get 2 bets out of them. Let's see what size Jay goes with on this c-bet. He just said all in? What? He just bet $1,500 into an $800 pot with pocket kings. This is definitely going to get Will off of his hand. There's no way Will's calling this much money in this spot with pocket sevens. We know Albert's folding, he just has king high. For some reason, Will's asking for a count. Maybe he just wants to make sure that's not a pot-sized bet before he folds. It's a $1,500 bet into an $800 pot after a pre-flop 3-bet. Will says all in. What is happening? We've got heads up all in pot for 3.6K. Will just couldn't get past the fact that he saw what he did with pocket fours. Let's see a turn and a river. 6 pairs the board. And a 7 on the river. Oh my God. A horrible call and a disastrous river card. Look at Jay's face. That's just a brutal beat to take from a 12-year-old wearing a suit. I've got a $50 straddle on the button to start this hand. Major looks down at pocket fours in the big blind, and we know he's just gonna limp on in. Major calls 50. Glenn calls 50 with pocket deuces. Philip makes a call with ace-6 suited. I don't love this. Todd has 7-6 suited. I like his call. And now Will has the real hand, pocket jacks with all these limps. Will makes it $300 to go. Albert and I fold and giggle uncontrollably. Looking at the hands and the stack sizes on the left, I think Will's just going to take this down with pocket jacks. Major gets out of the way. Glenn doesn't look like he wants to fold. Glenn calls 250 more to see the flop. Here's the problem with Glenn's call. He has a 2.5K stack. He's going to flop a set 1 out of 9 times. It's 8-1. That means if he flops a set, he has to get doubled up every single time just to break even. and that's not a good proposition. But he flops a set, so I'm an idiot. The flop is 7-3 deuce. Glenn checks to Will, and he's definitely going to see a bet this flop. Will should be betting this flop with any of his overs, any of his garbage hands that were just messing around, and definitely his over pairs. He bets $425 into an $800 pot. Glenn double checks his cards and then acts kind of surprised and shocked at the half pot bet size. This might be a tell that Will picks up on, especially once Glenn continues in this hand. So Glenn just calls, and I like that play. Alright, the turn's a 7. Glenn checks and is back on Will to extract some value, or at least what he thinks is going to be some value. Will's going to make a bet that's going to target hands like 8s, 9s, or 10s that limped in, trying to keep the pot small. He's all in? He just ripped it all in? He put Glenn all in for 1.8K. Glenn snap calls. Did he really think Glenn was going to call all this money with pocket 9s? He's only ever going to call this with a set or a hand like 7-8. I know these are my players, but they're playing crazier than ever. It folds around to Will, and he makes it $45 to go. Albert's in the big blind. He decides to call. I look down at ace, queen, offsuit. We've already been in this exact scenario a couple times. I make it $205 to go. It's back around to Will. He's probably tired of seeing this. He's been 3-bet a lot tonight. Will calls. And once Albert's put money in the pot, he's not folding. Albert calls. The flop is 10-9-7, all diamonds. So I have the ace of diamonds, and when it's checked to me, I'm going to c-bet. With 630 in the pot, I decide to make it 350. I actually don't have to bet a lot here to get them to fold a hand like King 10 with no diamonds. So it's a medium-sized semi-bluff. Will's got a decision to make. Will check raises to $1,000. Will's got about $5,000 in his stack, and I cover. This really puts me in a weird spot with just the ace of diamonds. I don't feel like I can fold, but what happens on the turn if I miss? Now, any jack, queen, or ace improves my equity, and any diamond will give me the nuts. But in general, you'd want to raise in this spot to get a hand like maybe 9-10 to fold. But we're so deep and the bet's so big, I'd basically have to shove 5K just to get that to happen. I'm not sure I want to do that, so maybe calling is the... Albert's all in? Alright, well I'm not putting my money in against two players, so I snap fold. And Will folds too. Oh, Albert had a set of 9s. What a train wreck. Head on over to razorclothing.com to check out my clothing line for poker t-shirts, hats, and hoodies. Let's check out my VPIP. Yeah, 28%, that's about where I would expect it to be. Nothing too surprising there. At this point in the night, I'm up almost $2,000. I look down at pocket 10s and I raise to 50. Major looks really interested on the button. He calls 50. To save some time, because it was actually quite intensive, I only blacked out the hands that I end up playing against. Which is interesting because you're going to see here that Philip has pocket 10s. So it's a bit of a spoiler. Somehow Philip and I aren't going to be playing a pot together even though we both have the same hand. Well, I know he's not going to flop a set, so you might be thinking this board must come all over cards. Nope, it's a 9-high flop. You guys should be really curious at this point. How does Philip end up getting out of this hand? So on a 9-high flop, I'm going to c-bet pocket 10s. And I make it $125. It's over to Major, who looks ecstatic about this flop. And he makes it $325. So now Philip's seeing a bet and a raise, and he has to fold his pocket 10s. But I decide to call, and the turn is the deuce of diamonds. If Major had the best hand, like 7-8 or a set, this card didn't change much. He bets $350. I was probably going to fold to a large bet on the turn and just assume he either flopped a straight or had a set, or maybe a 2-pair like 6-5, but this small bet doesn't convince me of that. I decided to call 350. The river's an overcard. It's a jack of diamonds, also a backdoor flush, and I check. Major snap checks and shows ace-9. Him having top on the flop and putting a raise in there, it's really hard for me to call with a worse hand, as I'm probably going to fold all my ace-king, ace-queen, ace-jack hands and only continue with my overpairs. And finally, Richard makes it into the vlog. Richard had the lowest VPIP in this game of 20%. He ended up having pocket aces like 5 different times and pocket kings maybe 4 times. It seemed like those were the only hands he was playing. He raised this hand over my straddle, and I call with ace-8 offsuit. The flop is ace-king-6 with the ace-6 of spades. I check over to Richard. This is a pretty standard spot where I'm just going to check call. I expect him to c-bet almost all of his range, and he bets $55, and I waste no time calling. The turn is another ace. You might think this is a great card, but it changes nothing. Whether I was ahead or behind on the flop, nothing's changed. It is supposed to reduce the chances that he has an ace, but how many times have you seen that? Trips over trips. So I'm just going to check call. Richard bets $175. I take a little bit, and then I call. The river's the 8 of spades. This is actually a really interesting spot. If Richard had a hand like ace-queen or ace-jack that now we beat, this card might actually scare him because it would look like we have a flush. This means I should probably lead out into him. The problem with leading is I'm basically saying I have a flush or a full house, and I'm probably not going to get called by a hand like ace-10. So I decide in those short seconds that this is best to check raise. So I check, and I'm happy to see that he bets $325. Now I'm definitely going to raise here. I'm not going to sit here and be worried about ace-king, the only hand that can beat me. The question is, what's the right sizing? Let's say he has a hand like ace-queen. How much is he going to call? I think I need to make it $1,000 to make it look like it could be a bluff, but something that he can't fold with an ace. I check raise to $1,100. The 8 of spades might be a horrible 8 for me to hit, but if he has a hand like king, queen of spades and made a flush here, he's definitely going to call. But in the end, you can't decide which of your full houses you're going to hit and how you're going to hit them, so I have a full house on the river, and I just got to try to get some value. Richard's in the tank. At this point, I feel like he has an ace. I don't think he's going to fold, but I just have to sit here and wait for him to make his decision. Oh, he lets it go. What did he have? He folded ace-queen? Who is this guy, Phil Hellmuth Jr.? It's always fun when you get to play with the GM of your club, and it's even more fun when you get to make fun of him, limping, 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 limping.
Boy, this is a nitty limp fold here, Mike. The queen
Yeah,
jack
this is,
suited. What's going on here?
I don't know. Maybe it's just like a
Somebody
Houston
get that
thing?
guy
Is
off the
that
table.
How everybody in Houston plays? 'Cause I don't want to throw any shots. Yeah.
It's not over. Limping. 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 Limping.
Button here, J stack. Gonna make it 60 with the queen jack offsuit. Another 10-9 suited. This time here for major, and it looks like he just mucks it.
Oh, and he can also fold hands that I would never fold. Ace-Jack suited. 10-9 suited. 8-7 suited.
And Major here again. Well, he's got the 10-9 suited. Ugh.
Yeah.
Is this guy playing a different game than I am, Mike?
What?
He's got the power limb fold.
So when he finally decides to come in for a raise, and it's a big raise because there's a $50 straddle, he makes it $150 to go. Good job, Major. This is great. And now it's going to fold around and fold around. See, this is all you have to do. It's not that scary. It's not that hard. You got one caller in Albert. His cards are about to register on the reader. And he has Queen 8. You have him dominated. The flop is Queen 7-5. A queen and 2 spades. Albert has top pair and a flush draw. And Major has top pair, top kicker. It's a coin flip. Look at this. Major c-bets 275. Albert might just raise right here. Major looks to have about 1,200 behind. It says he has 970, but I see 2 stacks of green, 2 stacks of red. Oh, Albert just puts them all in just like that. Major calls. And just like that, he's drawn dead. Albert wins. It's just brutal that Major spent an entire evening trying to pot control, trying to keep pots small and not play a huge pot with any of us, and then he just ends up getting it all in and instantly turning dead. So gross. Poker can be so stupid. We got a new player, Matt from Austin, at the table. He made it $75 with ace king in early position. Glenn calls with pocket eights. Everybody else kind of got some garbage cards. And then look at Albert with pocket queens. Albert's looking at $65 to call, but he's never calling. He's going to make it $310. That's a big raise. So now Matt has a decision. Does he just want to call or does he want to re-raise? Matt's sitting on 2.6K. This is always a tough spot with ace king. I think he made a decision right there and then second guessed himself. He shoves all in. Glenn's never going to call. Those cards aren't going to change Glenn. And he folds. So now Albert's in the tank for a very long time. It had to be a minute to 2 minutes. He's got a tough decision. He finally decides he just can't fold this hand and he calls. They agree on running 2 full boards. On the first board, Albert flops a set. That's pretty much going to lock up the win. Oh, the deuce on the turn gives Matt a straight draw. Bricks out. So Albert's guaranteed half the pot. The next board is 10 high. Turn is a 4. Oh, the river's a brick. Albert scoops the pot. 5.5K pot. This hand starts with Philip raising to $50 and Albert calling. I look down at pocket 10s. I'm going to 3-bet to $200. Glenn folds. Richard wastes everyone's time. He folds. It's over to Philip. He has to call $150 to see the flop. He calls. Albert lets go a queen 10 offsuit, and we're heads up to the flop. The flop is 5, 6, 7 with 2 clubs. This isn't really a great flop for the pre-flop 3-better. I'm way less likely to have hands that connect with this board. But I do have the 10 of clubs, I have an overpair, I have a backdoor flush draw, and I'm going to go ahead and bet. I see bet $200. Philip makes the call. The turn is a jack, which is an overcard to my pair, but it doesn't really go with the flop. I don't see any reason to bet this card, but I'm actually not that concerned about it. Philip checks, and I check behind. The river's the 4 of clubs. There's 4 to a straight and 3 to a flush. That's not a good card for me. The question is that something that Philip has? He leads out $500, and now I gotta decide, does he have me beat, or do I have the best hand? What do you guys think? Type in the comments, call 10s or fold 10s. Pause the video and type in the comments now, call 10s or fold 10s. Well, I never fold anything, so I call. Philip says ace high, and it turns out he had ace queen offsuit. I straddle for $20 under the gun in this hand, and Matt raises to $70. Kind of surprised Richard folded queen 9 suited there. Todd's gonna call with pocket 7s. I decide to put $50 more in with 8-7 offsuit. We're going 3 ways to a flop. The flop is queen 9-10 of spades, and I have 8-7 with the 8 of spades. It's an interesting flop. I flop the bottom end of a straight flush draw. So any jack gives me a straight, but also gives any king a straight. Any 6 gives me a straight, but any straight I make is in the nuts. The jack of spades would give me a straight flush, but any other flush is going to be pretty bad. I decided to basically bluff this flop with some equity. So I decided to lead out into the pre-flop raiser, which isn't normally recommended, but it's a board that if he just has 2 red cards, he's going to fold. So I bet into Matt and he calls. Now the turn is the ace of clubs. My thought process during this hand is that was a good card for me to continue bluffing on. If he has a hand like queen jack of hearts or king queen of diamonds, he's going to hate this card. So I bet the turn for $375. In retrospect, I don't think this turn card is that great of a card for me to bet, because when Matt calls, he's actually going to have a lot of ace-x hands. Ace queen, ace king, ace jack, for example. Once he hits an ace, he's probably not going to fold. I shouldn't really be repping this ace as not the pre-flop raiser. And Matt makes the call, and we're going to need some help on the river. The river's the 4 of clubs. This card does nothing for me, but there's $1,300 out there, and the only way to get it is if I bluff at it. I don't feel like I have to bet a lot. I really just want him to fold a hand like maybe red pocket jacks, maybe a bad queen. He's probably going to call with most aces. I bet $700. Considering the pot size, this has to work 1 in 3 times, so 33% of the time to be profitable. Matt shoves on me and I snap fold. Turns out he had ace king with the king of spades, and he was never folding at any point in that hand. Albert makes a spicy raise in late position with 5-4 suited. Well, there's another Matt on the table sitting on my left. This Matt's gonna 3-bet. He makes it $375 with pocket jacks. I'm sure Albert feels the way I do about this kind of hand. He knows he's gonna call. He wants to win a big pot if he hits, and he knows he's not gonna be dominated or put in a weird spot. Albert makes the call. We're going to a flop. You can see the equities are basically like having an underpair and an overpair, 80-20. The flop is queen 7-5. There's 2 hearts out there. Matt's the only person with a heart. Matt downbets to $250. This gives Albert 4-1 odds on his call, and he decides that's good enough. Going to a turn card. Oh, the turn's a 4. Now it is the 4 of hearts. That might slow Albert down, but probably not. He's got a 2 pair now. I assume Matt's gonna check this. Matt has an underpair. He has a heart just in case he needs it. I'm sure this is a hand that Matt's gonna wanna just check call with. The pot's $1,300. Albert has to decide what sizing. Let's see what he does. Those pink chips are $500. He's got a lot of chips getting in there. Albert bets $850. We now have a 2K pot. I don't think Matt's ever folding in this spot. In fact, he doesn't even take that much time before calling. Oh my God, a jack on the river. Matt just sucked out. Holy cow. Okay, the only thing Matt's worried about now is if Albert has a flush. This is one of those spots where Matt's just kind of have to check call, hope he has the best hand. It's likely he does, but Albert might have a flush. Well, what's Matt doing? Matt's reaching for chips. Matt just leads right into Albert, $1,500. He clearly does not think Albert has a flush. So Matt's basically betting on the fact that his hand is just so strong, it's unlikely he's going to be beat very often. In fact, he probably doesn't even care if in this exact spot, Albert ends up having a better hand. Albert actually says right here, man, I feel like you rivered a set of jacks before he calls. And sure enough, he was right. And this is the end of the stream. Let's check out the stacks. I ended up having a small loss, -$200. Started out really strong, but couldn't keep it up. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel, and also check out razorclothing.com.